Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria, the I Know What Works coach, and I'm the author of 7 books, including Lighting Your Path, How to Create the Life You Want, and Pushy for a Moment, Instant Solutions to Everyday Challenges. I'm also the host of the Sanity Project podcast, which you're listening to right now, and I partner with IT pros in telecommunications, technology, entertainment, and mass media whose work-life integration plan has imploded. I interview experts in the area of many things: self-development, mindfulness, leadership, and health and wellness. And today, we're going to be talking a little bit about health and wellness in that arena. And I will introduce my guest today is Sora Vernikoff. Sora Vernikoff is a no-diet weight loss coach at www.nodieting.net who healed herself of compulsive overeating and has since helped hundreds of unhappy dieters do the very same thing. Sora teaches her program to private clients both online and offline, and her recent book, Eat What You Want, Stop What You Want, a no-diet weight loss program, became an Amazon #1 bestseller when it was published in July 2017. What Sora is going to be talking about today is how to help you understand why diets don't work and how you can now lose weight and feel healthier through a system which she's going to share part of with you today. So welcome to the show, Sora Vernikoff.
Well, thank you, Joanne, for having me, and I'm really happy to share with your listeners why diets don't work, why they struggle with food and their food thoughts, and then how they can change all that to become thinner and healthier without the angst and the deprivation of the diet. So the first thing I want to share with your listeners is why diets don't work. So I want the folks that are listening to think about a clock, and on the top you have the number 12. At the number 12, that's the moment when you decide to go on the diet. I'm going to go on a diet. I want to get thinner. I want to get healthier. And I can do this, but I have to follow the rules of the diet. But unfortunately, diets are rules. They're rules that tell you you can't really have the food that you want. You're going to have the amount we tell you to have at the time that we tell you to have it. And then as a reward, by following these instructions, you will get thin and healthy. So you're all gung-ho, yeah, I'm going to lose weight. And 12 o'clock, you're on the diet. Now let's go to 3 o'clock. It's 2.5 days later. You're following the rules of this diet and you're good. Oh my God, I'm so good, but I really want those Oreos. But it's not on the diet. What do? So you engage in this big struggle and you wind up grabbing the bag of Oreos and eating the Oreos. So at 6 o'clock, you went from being good on the diet to a diet binge or diet overeating, depending on what you call it. So a diet binge or diet overeating experience is really a behavior that has two edges of a sword. On the one hand, you did the only thing that you could do to run away from the rules of the diet. But on the other hand, you're going to beat yourself up because after you relieved yourself of running away from the diet, you say, oh my God, look what I just did. How am I ever going to get thinner and healthier? I can't even control myself on a diet. So what do? Let's go to 9 o'clock on the clock. You go back to the diet knowing full well that there's another diet binge it lurking in the back of your mind. So at 12 o'clock, you diet. At 3 o'clock, you're good, however long you're good. At 6 o'clock, you diet binge to run away from the rules of the diet and get some relief. You beat yourself up for having binged. And then at 9 o'clock, you decide to go back to the diet because it's obvious to you you can't do this by yourself. And the reason you can't do it by yourself is because you don't have a system that would allow you to have the food that you really want and be able to eat and stop, lose weight, and become healthier. But on that note, let's hold that thought, and let's talk about why dieting also keeps you thinking about food all day. So the reason you think about food all day when you're on a diet is because you're thinking about all the food you really want, but the diet says you can't have, or the diet says you can have, but only 3 cookies. Well, excuse me, what if you want 5? What if you want 7? Let's just hold that thought as well, and you'll see how it all works into the system.
I have a question here.
Absolutely.
When people are on this diet, whichever one they choose to go on, aren't there some programs out there that allow you to eat differently than others so that you might not necessarily go on a binge with the Oreo? I mean, I've been there myself, maybe not with Oreos, but with my own devil food, as I call it, whatever it might be. Actually, I don't do diets anymore, but I still have a habit sometimes when I'm tired of overeating. Can they choose a diet outside of what you're talking about that's going to provide them with this binging process, or some more than 3 Oreos? Or do you think that they have to look at your way of doing it because it works easier and better for them?
Well, first of all, the very nature of the word diet means restrictive. So it doesn't matter what diet you choose. The reason it's a diet and has been culturally defaulted to as a diet is because it's giving you the choice to have less than you might really want. So for me personally, I don't see a diet being functional because you're not really maybe you're having the Oreo cookie, but what if that's what you want for dinner and you want 7? I mean, that's okay. And my program lets you do that.
Okay, good. That's important that they know that it's about being in their own power and getting to choose.
Not only in their own power, Joanne, but it's taking back the power from the Oreos. You know, I talk about Oreos in my book, so it's funny how you should use Oreos. But the Oreos don't have power. You know, the reason I developed this program is I used to teach really tough kids in Brooklyn, and I learned how to manage them, and it's really not easy. And one day I looked at them and I said, hey, how come these kids who walk, talk, and do those other things listen to me, but food that has no animate qualities, I can't stop thinking about and I can't stop eating. So one of the things I'm really passionate about is that food has no qualities, that the only quality it has is that it controls you. And it all starts with the picture in your mind. So once you learn how to manage the picture in your mind of the Oreos and use the techniques in the program, you actually take back the power from the Oreos. And I love that.
I think that's amazing, because I think that's a lot of what people give up when they go on a diet, is they give up the control of their life.
Oh, believe me, you give up control of your life in so many ways that I don't have the time to go into. But when you give the power to the food on the diet, it's so multi-leveled in terms of the power that you're giving away. First, I mean, just 3 off the top of my head is I can't do it. So I don't live in an I can't do it world. That means that you saying that you can't manage Oreos. I mean, that doesn't work.
That is kind of funny if you think about it realistically.
Yeah, I mean, but this is how I think about it. Number two, you're giving the control to 4 people who are sitting in a corporate boardroom who have decided how many Oreos you can or cannot have each day, okay? And 3, you're destroying your day because all you're thinking about all day is what you ate, when you ate, what you cannot or can have for lunch or for dinner, and what happens after 6 o'clock when you've used all your food or your calories or your points. It's a constant vigil on. It's like having very controlling parents.
Right.
There's just no way out. There's no freedom. There's no real choice. And what they're also telling you is that you're not capable of managing these Oreos, and this diet is here to keep them in check.
Okay, so what tools do you have for us who, for example, I don't do diets anymore, but that doesn't mean that I might not want more than 1 Oreo. I mean, or 3 or 4. There are times when I would just have a bag of cookies and eat what I want. Of course, I ultimately become unwell because I've either got a sugar overload or a gluten overload or whatever, and I feel terrible physically.
Okay. Well, first of all, I love that you use Oreos because I have a whole thing in my book is divided into 3 sections. In the first section, you learn why diets don't work, what food thoughts could be managing your weight problem. In the second section, I actually teach you to eat and stop, drink and stop, and bloat and stop, which is a way to get you to your non-dieted weight loss goal in a shorter period of time. And in section 3, I have 2 chapters with questions and answers from program users and questions about weight loss. And then 3 additional weight loss management strategies that let you speed your no-dieted weight loss. In addition, you get an appendix that you can carry it along with you. I have a glossary, and I index the book so you can do quick reference. And let's get back to Oreos because it's in my book.
Okay, there we go.
So let's do this visual together, Joanne. Joanne wants her Oreos. So this is how she would use the green technique with her Oreos. So the bag of Oreos is in front of you, Joanne. I want you to look inside the bag, and before you have any Oreos, this is the green technique. There are 2 techniques, the green and the red. I'm teaching you the green technique.
Okay.
I want you to ask yourself, how many Oreos are enough and how much are too much? So take a silent pretend moment and ask yourself, how many are enough and how many are too much? And when you're ready, just let me know.
Okay. For make-believe, since I don't have the bag of Oreos in front of me because I can't chew them when I'm on a podcast, how many are enough? Let's say 5 are enough.
Okay, so I want you to take a pretend moment and take those 5 Oreos out of the bag. Do that now.
Okay, I did.
Now I want you to take another pretend moment, and I want you to put the bag of Oreos away.
Okay.
Now because actually it would be easier for your listeners if the Oreos were on a plate. Do you mind if I do that again?
No, just say it. Just say it.
So there's this whole plate of Oreos, and you just decided 5 were enough. So what you're going to do is you're going to push the other Oreo. Now, before you can have those 5 Oreos, you need to push those other Oreos, let's say the other 7, to a time on the clock of your plate, let's say 12 o'clock, and that's called your too much marker. So push the 7 to a time on a plate. And when you've done that, let me know.
Okay, so I've got a pile of 5 Oreos that I'm going to eat right now, unless you stop me, and then I've pushed 7 to the side because they're too much.
Correct. Now, isn't it interesting how you just gave me the power to stop you? I just find that interesting. Like you said, unless I stop you, but I'm not going to stop you. You're going to stop yourself. And that's the beauty of the system. You don't have to be afraid of Oreos anymore. So here's what you do. You've got 5 Oreos that you decided were enough, and you've got 7 up at a time on your plate. That's your too much marker, the amount that was too much. Now, Joanne, I want you to pretend that you're eating the amount that was enough, those 5 Oreos, but not your marker. So enjoy your 5 Oreos and let me know when you finished eating them.
Well, we're going to fast forward in time and just pretend that I finished eating them with a cup of green tea.
Okay, awesome. Well, Joanne, guess what? You just ate and stopped because you decided how much was enough, those 5 Oreos, and how much was too much, the 7 on top. Now, you may say, but you have to see the 7 on top. When you finish the 5, if you don't see the 7 on top, you did not eat and stop. Because that marker lets you know, Joanne, had enough of the Oreos that I wanted, and I could stop myself by looking at the marker.
I see. Okay.
Now you might say to me, but Sora, what if I want more Oreos? So let's pretend, for the sake of this podcast, that you want more. So I'm going to say to you, okay, Joanne, take more Oreos from your marker, but make sure to leave over a new marker. Okay, so how many more might you want?
2.
All right, so push 2 down and make that your enough pile.
Got it.
And then leave the other 3 up top. How many?
5.
The other 5 up top. Now, pretend to eat the additional 2, and you will have eaten and stopped. Why? Because you gave yourself enough of the food that you really wanted, and you had the marker to back you up to let you know that you could eat and stop yourself.
I see. I see how it works. So you're doing a visual, which is vital because people live in a visual
It's
world.
but without the mark. See, without the marker, nothing is enough, and you're pre-programmed eating. And how can you
Right.
stop if you don't know
Right.
how much is enough?
That's right. So that's why if people do this, if they get a plate out, because I think the plate is important, and I always eat off a plate. So even I would even put my cookies on a plate because I don't, that's what I would do. So if I have this magic marker there, that's what I'll call it, a magic marker of excess that would be too much. I think the visual works, the power and control aspect works because I am choosing. Nobody's telling me what to do because I hate anybody telling me what to do.
Well, join Sora's world.
And I think our listeners can manage to visualize a similar thing. Now, what do you do if it's pizza?
Oh, very simple. Okay, so raise your hand. I want all your listeners and you too, Joanne. Raise your hand and raise your left hand and pretend it's a piece of pizza.
Okay.
Before you eat the pizza, you ask yourself how much is enough and how much is too much. Then you take off the amount that's too much, called your marker, and you set it down. Now, let's say you're walking in the street and you're eating the pizza and you don't have a plate. You know how I live in New York.
Only in New York would you do that. They don't have slices here, so they don't understand that concept. To my knowledge, in case anybody gets ticked off by what I'm saying, but this is a New York thing, maybe a Chicago thing, but definitely a New York thing, where you go, you pick up a slice, and you walk the street. So let's stick.
Okay, so let me be more ladylike, having just taken a cultural lesson from listening to you. And let's say you buy a piece of pizza and it comes on a plate. You're using the system. The first thing you need to do is ask yourself how much is enough and how much is too much. Well, let's say you want the whole slice. That's really cool. But if you're in the program, you have to tear off just a little teeny bit and put it somewhere on your plate so that you know that when you eat, you gave yourself enough and you were able to eat and stop by looking at the marker. No marker, nothing is enough. You can't eat and stop.
There you go, people. I hope everybody has it, and whether you have it or not right now, rewind and re-listen to what Sora Vernikoff is telling you. Obviously, get a copy of her book, The Eat What You Want, Stop When You Want, a no-diet weight loss program, because she has given you some huge cues, not clues, but cues right now as what to do. So give us one more cue.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a really big one because it kind of takes in a lot of subject matter, and that is, I feel, and I don't really address this in the book so much, but I want to share this with your listeners. I think it's very important. See, food excites people like ourselves that deal with this food challenge. Okay, so I think it's very important that when you eat, that you sit in the same chair in your house, that I use the same color dish every time I eat. I use the same utensils. And it's very important to keep some things the same so that you can focus more on your eating. So if you're sitting in the same chair using the same dish with the same color napkin, you're more likely to think more about the food that you're eating and using the technique, which is really the most important thing. So it minimizes the anxiety with the food by keeping other aspects of the eating experience the same. And if you start making as many aspects of your eating experience the same, that's awesome.
Okay, that's important. And that's what I do. I sit in the same place all the time when I eat. I don't know if I have the same utensils, but I certainly have a similar dish, similar color napkins, and similar utensils at each meal. And once in a while, I'll sit in front of the TV and eat, but more often than not, I sit in a chair. And
Well,
I think the continuation of that, I don't know, it's easier for me to not worry about what's on my plate when I do that.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I use the same plate, the same napkins, the same utensils, the same chair. I also, when I go out to eat in a restaurant, only order the same food in variation because it's very easy when you have different kinds of foods in front of you to get really excited and to forget to use the technique and not eat and stop. So me personally, I always look for very similar types of dishes, remembering that I'm at this dinner to be with folks and to have conversation and to meet new people, and it's not about the food.
Right.
So
That's why. So people remind themselves of the purpose of what they're doing. That helps them not measure the food, but do follow the tools.
Listen, and also it's important to keep what I call, and it's all in the book, Eat What You Want, Stop When You Want, a No Diet Weight Loss program. Also keeping what I call a neutralized kitchen. If you know that you're bringing in Oreos, Joanne, you need to be prepared to want those Oreos that day or the next day. My suggestion to you is to buy individual packets of Oreos, not to bring in a bag, and say, I want Oreos today, and buy 2 or 3 packets and have them using the technique so that you have less Oreos in the house, because what you're going to be working to do is make peace with the Oreos, and bringing the bag in is not a good beginning.
I know. That's why my purpose for myself is to not have anything in the house that I don't want in my body, because if I have it,
Correct.
I will eat it. I will eat it. I have no so-called food boundaries about that. If it's there, I'm going to eat it. And I have gone from time to time to small packs of whatever it is that I like. I might like a Lorna Doone or whatever, but I go for small so that I have less temptation.
Well, here's the good news. Once you use the 2 techniques in the system, you will be able to bring most foods into the house. But there'll always, even to this day, and I've been on my program for decades, there'll always be foods that are trigger foods. I mean, there'll always be foods that are more difficult to stop there'll always be more foods that you want to eat sooner when they're in the house. Now, you still may use the techniques, but it's harder for you to wait. See, having a weight problem, or a weight challenge, as I like to call it, and not using the system, it's hard for people like us to wait. We always want to suck on something, drink something, chew on something. What this process does is it minimizes the number of times on average that you think about food, which allows you, through these 2 techniques, to wait longer periods of time before you want to chew again. And for me, it was worth all the hard work.
Right. So you said that you had your own weight challenge.
Yes, I lost 25 pounds that I've kept off since '84 on my program, on my system.
Wow.
And I can tell you, I used to diet, take off the weight, do everything perfectly, please, and then regain the weight and binge. And one day when I looked at these kids who were really tough and they listened to me, I just couldn't figure out why food had a stranglehold on me. And these kids that were like close to impossible, I learned to manage. I got pissed off. I said, there's got to be another way. And that's the day that I stopped dieting and started journaling every eating experience for years and years and years to understand why I couldn't stop thinking about food and why I couldn't stop eating. And you know what I found? I found out that it was because nothing I ate was enough. I never felt it was enough. So I developed these 2 techniques, which were the same techniques that I used to manage the kids in the classroom, and I came up with this no diet system.
That's amazing. Well, I want to tell our listeners to go to your website, which is www.nodieting.net. Buy the book. It's not a big deal, people. Buy a book. Eat What You Want, Stop When You Want, a no diet weight loss program. So I'm going to ask you one more question, what has been a lesson or advice that has stuck with you all your life that you can think of right now?
Well, first and foremost, I would have to say my faith in God and my belief in the higher power. That's what sustained me through healing myself, creating the work, everything. I mean, it's my faith that has sustained me. But I would say that what I've learned through this entire experience is to believe in yourself and to take action. to know that you're worth it and that you can do it. You just have to want it. And everything that's new is work, but it's worth it. And what's a better investment than yourself? Nothing. And that's my best advice.
That's perfect, because I don't think people pay attention to themselves enough in the right way that is going to benefit them, either health, mental or physical or spiritual health. Well, I thank Sora Vernikoff for being here today. I want everybody to refer this podcast to their friends, because this is the only way Sora's message will get out, at least as far as this Sanity Project podcast episode is concerned. And I also ask that you go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com and download a free copy of the True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. Even though it doesn't have anything about Oreos or pizza in it, I'm sure you'll find something very beneficial. I want to thank Sora Vernikoff for being here today and talking about her perspective on stopping yourself to not eat more than you really need to eat. Anyway, thanks, Sora, for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Joanna. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on her podcast page. And get a free copy of her book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.